Vampire Academic, Part 1, Chapter 3. Sending us straight to class after our meeting seems to beyond cruel, but that is exactly what Kirova did. Lisa was led away, and I watched her go, glad the bond could allow me to keep reading her emotional temperature. They actually sent me to one of the Guardian's counselors first. He was an ancient Moroi guy, one I remembered before I could left. I honestly could not believe he was still around. The guy was so freaking old. He could have retired or died. The visit took all of 5 minutes. He said nothing about my return and asked a few questions about what classes I could take in Chicago and Portland. He compared those against my old file and hastily scrawled out a new schedule. I took it sullenly and headed out of my first class. First period, Advanced Guardian Compact Techniques. Second period, Bodyguard Theory and Personal Protection 3. Third period, Weight Training and Conditioning. Fourth period, Senior Language Arts, Non-Voice. Lunch. Fifth period, Animal Behavior and Psychology. Sixth period, Pre-Calculus. Seventh period, Moroi Culture 4. Eighth period, Salvic Art. Ugh. I could have forgotten how long the academic school day was. Non-voice and Moroi took separate classes during the first half of the day, which meant I could not see Lisa until after lunch. If we had any afternoon classes together, most of them were standard senior classes. So I felt my odds were pretty good. Salvic Art struck me as the kind of elective no one signed up for. So hopefully they could suck her in that too. Drummond and Alberta escorted me to the Guardian's gym for the first period, neither one acknowledging my existence. Walking behind them, I saw how Alberta wore her hair in short pixie cut that showed her promise mark and Virginia mark. A lot of female guardians did this. It don't matter so much for me now, since my neck had no tattoos yet, but I don't want to ever cut my hair. She and Drummond don't say anything and walked along almost like it was any other day. When we arrived, the reactions of my peers indicated it was anything but. They were in the middle of setting up when we entered the gym, and just like in the comments, all eyes fell on me. I could not decide if I felt like a rock star or a circus freak. All right then, if I was going to be stuck here for a while, I was not going to act afraid of them all anymore. Lisa had once held the school's respect, and it was time to remind everyone of that. Scanning the statings, open mouthed, non voice. I looked for a familiar face. Most of them were guys. One caught my eye, and I could barely hold back my grin. Hey Manson, wipe that roll off your face. If you're going to think about me, act. Do it on your own time. A few snorts and stinkers broke the awkward silence, and Manson afford snapped out of his haze, giving me a lopsided smile. With red hair that stuck up everywhere and a smattering of freckles, he was nice looking, though not exactly hot. He was also one of the funniest guy I know. We could have been good friends back in the day. This is the time, Hathaway. I'm leading today's session. Oh yeah, I retweeted. Well, I guess this is good time to think about me next then. It's always a good time to think about you, Nat, added someone nearby, breaking the tension further. A.D. Castile, another friend of mine, Drummond shook his head and walked off, muttering something in Russian that don't sound complimentary. But as for me, well, just like that, I was one of the non-voice again. They were an easygoing bunch, less focused on peerage and politics than the Morai students. The class engulfed me, and I found myself laughing and saying those I could nearly forgotten about. Everyone wanted to know where we could be. Apparently, Lisa and I had become legends. I could not tell them why we could left, of course, so I offered up a lot of tauntauns and could not you like to know that served just as well. The happy reunion lasted a few more moments before the adult guardian who oversaw the training came over and scolded Manson for neglecting his duties. Still grinning, he barked out orders to everyone, explaining and with what exercising to start with. Uneasily, I realized I don't know most of them. Come on, Hathaway, he said, taking my arm. You can be my partner. Let's see what you've been doing all this time. An hour later, he had his answer. No practicing, huh? Oh, I groaned, momentarily incapable of normal speech. He extended a hand, helped me up from the mat. He knocked me down about 15 times. I hate you, I told him, rubbing a spot of my thigh that was going to have a victories tomorrow. You hate me more if I held back. Yeah, that's true. I agreed. Striking along as the class put the equipment back. You actually did okay. What? I just had my ass handed to me. Well, of course you did. It has been 2 years, but hey, you're still working. That is something. He grinned at mockingly. Did I mention I hate you? He flashed me another smile, which quickly faded to something more serious. Don't take this wrong way. I mean, you really are a scarecrow, but there is no way you will be able to take your trials in the spring. You're making me take extra sessions. I explained. Not that it matter. I planned on getting Lisa and me out of here before these spiders really become an issue. I'll be ready. Extra sessions? With who? The tall guy, Drummond? Manson stopped walking and started at me. You're putting in extra time with Black? Yeah, so what? So the man is God. Exerting much? I asked. No, I'm serious. I mean, he is all quiet and antisocial usually, but when he fights, wow. If you think you're hurting now, you're going to be dead when he is done with you. Great. Something else to improve my day. I elbowed him and went to the second period. That class covered the essentials of being a bodyguard and was required for all seniors. Actually, it was the third in seniors that had started junior year. That meant I was behind in this class too, but I hope protecting Lisa is in the real world had given me some insight. Our instructor was Stan Alto, whom we refer to simply as Stan, behind his back, and God Alto in the formal settings. He was a little older than Drummond, but not nearly as tall, and he always looks pissed off. Today, that looked intensified when he walked into the classroom and saw me sitting there. His eyes widened in mock surprise when he circled the room and come to stand beside me. What's this? No one told me we had a guest speaker here today. Rose Hathaway. What a privilege. How very generous of you to take time out of your busy schedule and share your knowledge with us. I felt my cheeks burning, but in great show of self control, I stopped myself from telling him to fuck off. I'm pretty sure my face must have delivered the message. However, because his sneer increased, he gestured for me to stand up. Well, come on, don't sit there. Come on, come to the front. So you can help me lecture the class. I sank into my seat. You don't really mean the taunting smile dried up. I mean exactly what I say, Hathaway. Go to the front of the class. A thick silence enveloped the room. Stan was a scary instructor, and most of the class was too awed to laugh at my disgrace. Yet, refusing to crack, I stopped up to the front of the room and turned to face the class. I gave them a bold look and tossed my hair over my shoulder, earning a few sympathetic smiles from my friends. I then noticed I had a larger audience than expected. A few guardians, including Grimmett, lingered in the back of the room. Outside the academic, guardians focused on one on one production. Here, guardians had a lot more people to protect and they had to train the non-voice. So rather than follow any one person around, they worked shifts, guardians, the school as a whole, and monitoring classes. So Hathaway, said Shan cheerfully, strolling back up to the front with me. Enlighten us about your productive techniques. My techniques? Of course, because presumably you must have had some sort of a plan that rest of us could not understand when you took an underage Moroi royal out of the academic and exposed her to constant recoil threats. It was Kirova lecture all over again except with more witnesses. We never ran into any Strigoi, I replied stiffly. Obviously, he said with a snicker. I already figured that out, seeing as how you're still alive. I wanted to shout that maybe I could have defeated a Strigoi, but after getting beat up in the last class, I now suspected I could not have survived an attack by Manson, let alone an actual Strigoi. When I don't say anything, Stan started pacing in front of the class. So, what could you do? How could you make sure she stayed safe? Did you avoid going out at night? Sometimes. That was true, especially when we could first run away. We have relaxed a little after months went by with no attacks. Sometimes, he repeated in high pitched voice, making my answers sound incredibly stupid. Well, then, I suppose you slept during the day and stayed on guard at night. No. No? But that is one of the first thing mentioned in the chapter on solo gardening. Oh wait, you could not know that because you are not there. I swallowed back more swears words. I watched the area whenever we went out. I said, needing to define myself. Oh, well, that is something. Did you see camera current surveillance method or the rational survivory? I don't say anything. Ah, I'm guessing. You used the Hathaway glance around when you remember to method. No, I exclaimed angrily. That is not true. I watched her. She is still alive, is not she? He walked back up to me and leaned towards my face. Because you got lucky. Strigoi are not looking around every corner out there. I shot back. It is not like what we have been taught. It is safer than you guys make it sound. Safer? Safer? We are at war with Strigoi. He yielded. I could smell coffee in his breath. He was so close. One of them could walk up right up to you and snap your pretty little neck before you even noticed him. And he could barely break a sweat doing it. You might have more speed and strength than a Moro or a human, but you're nothing, nothing compared to your Strigoi. They are deadly and they are powerful. And do you know what makes them more powerful? No way was I going to let this jerk make me cry. Looking away from him, I tried to focus on something else. My eyes rested on Trimmet and the other guardians. They were watching my humiliation, stone faced. Moroi blood, I whispered. What was that? Asked Stan loudly. I don't catch it. I spun around to look face him. I spun around back to face him. Moroi blood. Moroi blood makes them stronger. He nodded in satisfaction and took a few steps back. Yes, it does. It makes them stronger and harder to destroy. They will kill and drink from a human or vampire, but they want Mora blood more than anything else. They seek it. They have turned to the dark side to gain immortality, and then they want to do whatever they can to keep that immortality. Despite Strigoi have attacked Mora in public, groups of Strigoi have raided academics exactly like this one. There are Strigoi who had lived for thousands of years and fed off generations of Moroi. They are almost impossible to kill, and that is why Moroi numbers are dropping. They are not strong enough, even with guardians, to protect themselves. Some Moroi don't even see the point of running anymore and are simply turning Strigoi by choice. And as the more Moroi disappear, so the vampires I finished. Well, he said, licking sprayed spit off his lips. It looks like you learned something after all. Now we have to see if you can learn enough to pass the class and qualify for your field experience next semester. Ouch. I spent the rest of the horrible class in my seat, thankfully, replaying those last words in mind. The senior year field experience was the best part of the non voice education. We could have no classes for a half a semester. Instead, we could each be assigned a moral student to guard and follow around the guard. The adult guardians could monitor us and test us with stacked attack and more and other threats. How a non-voice passed the field experience was almost as important as all the rest of her grades combined. It could influence which Morai she got assigned to after graduation. And me, there was only one Morai I wanted. Two classes later, I finally earned my lunch escape. As I stumbled across campus towards the commons, Dimit fell into the steps beside me, not looking particularly godlike unless you counted him godlike good looks. I suppose you saw what happened in Stan's class. I asked, not bothering with titles. Yes. And you don't think that was unfair? Was he right? Do you think you are fully prepared to protect Vesalza? I looked down at the ground. I kept her alive, I mumbled. How do you do fighting against your classmates today? The question was mean. I don't answer, and no, I don't need to. I, I could have another training class after stands, and no doubt Remit had watched me get beat up there too. If you cannot fight them, yeah, I know, I snapped. He slowed his long stride to match my pain filled one. You're stronger and fast by nature. You just need to keep yourself trained. Don't you play any sports while you were gone? Sure, I just now and then. You don't join any teams? Too much work. If I wanted to practice that much, I could have stayed here. He gave me an express look. You will never have you will never be able to really protect the princess if you don't hone your skills. You will always be lacking. I'll be able to protect her, I said fearlessly. I have no graduations of being assigned to her, you know, for your field experience or after your graduations. Drummond's voice was low and unapologetic. They had given me a warm and fuzzy mentor. No one wants to waste the bond, but no one's going to give her an inadequate guardian either. If you want to be with her, then you need to work for it. You have your lessons. You have me. Use us or don't. You're an ideal choice to guard Vesalsa when you both graduate. If you can prove you're worthy, I hope you will. Lisa. Call her Lisa. I corrected. She hated her full name, much preferring the Americanized nickname. He walked away, and suddenly I don't feel like such a badass anymore. By now, I could burn up a lot of time leaving class. Most everyone else had long since sprinted inside the commons for lunch. Eager to maximize their social time, I could almost have made it back there myself when a voice under the door's overhang called to me, Rose? Peering into the worst direction, I caught sight of Dashwa. He kind face smiling at me as leaned on the ca- can near the building's wall. His two guardians stood nearby at a polite distance. Mr. Dashwak, Your Highness, hi. I caught myself just in time, having nearly forgotten Moroi royal terms. I don't use them while living among humans. The Moroi choose their roles from among 12 royal families. The eldest in the family got the title of prince or princess. Lisa had gotten hers because she was the only one left in her line. How was your first day? He asked. Not over. I tried to think of something conversational. Are you visiting here for a while? I've been leaving this afternoon after I say hello to Natalie. When I heard Vasalis and you had returned, I simply had to come see you. I nodded, not sure what else to say. He was more Liza's friend than mine. I wanted to tell you, he spoke hesitantly. I understand the gravity of what you did, but I think Headmistress Kirova failed to acknowledge something. You did keep Vesalza safe all this time. This is impressive. Well, it was not like I faced down Strigoi or anything, I said. But you faced down some things. Sure, the school sent psychohons once. Remarkable. Not really. Avoiding them was pretty easy. He laughed. I have hunted with them before. They are not that easy to evade, not with their powers and intelligence. It was true. Psychopithons were one of many types of magical creatures that wandered the world, creatures that humans never know about or else don't believe they had really seen. The hounds traveled in packs and shared a sort of psycho communication that made them particularly deadly to their prey, as did the fact they are resembled Mount Vowels. Did you face anything else? I searched. Little things here and there. Remarkable, he repeated. Lucky, I think. It turns out I am really behind in all Guardian stuffs. I sounded just like Stan now. You're a smart girl. You will catch up and you will also have your bond. I looked up. My ability to feel Lisa had been such a secret for so long. It felt weird to have others know about it. The histories are full of stories of guardians who could feel when their changes were in danger. Victor continued. I have made a hobby of studying up on it and some of the ancient ways. I have heard it as a tremendous asset. I guess I searched. What a boring hobby, I thought, imagining him poring over pre psychotic histories in some dark library covered in spider webs. Victor titled his letter, curiosity all over his face. Kirova and the others had the same look when we could mention our connection like we are lab rats. What it is like, if you don't mind me asking, it is, I don't know. I just sort of always have this hum of how she feels. Usually, it is just emotions. We cannot send messages or anything. I don't tell him about slipping into her head. The part of it was hard even for me to understand. But it does not work the other way. She does not sense you. I shook my head. His face shone with wonder. How did it happen? I don't know, I said, still glancing away. Just started 2 years ago? He frowned. Near the time of accident? Hastily I noted. The accident was not something I wanted to talk about. That was for sure. Lisa's memories were bad enough without my own mixing into them. Twisted metal, a sensation of heart, that cold, that then hot again. Lisa screaming over me, screaming for me to wake up, screaming for her parents and her brother to wake up. None of them had, only me. And the others doctors said that was a miracle in itself. They said it should not have survived. Apparently, sensing my discomfort, Victor let the moment go and returned to his earlier excitement. I can still barely believe this. It has been so long since this has happened. If it did happen more often, just think what it could do for the safety of all Moroi. If only others could experience this too. I will have to do more research and see if we can replicate it with others. Yeah, I was getting impatient. Despite how much I liked him, Natalie rambled a lot, and it was pretty clear which parent she could inherited that quality from. Lunch was ticking down, and although Mora and Onvoice shared afternoon classes, Lisa and I could not have much time to talk. Perhaps we could, he started coughing. A great sizing fit that made his whole body shake. His disease, Sandroko's syndrome, took the lungs down with it while dragging the body towards death. I cast anxious looks at his guardians, and one of them stepped forward. Your Highness, he said politely, you need to go inside. It is cold. It is too cold out here. Victor nodded. Yes, 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 and I'm sure Rose here wants to eat. He turned to me. Thank you for speaking to me. I cannot emphasize how much it means to me that Vasali is safe and that you helped with that. I promised your father I could look after her if anything happened to him, and I felt like quite the failure when you left. A sinking sensation filled my stomach as I imagined him racked with guilty and worry over our disappearance. Until now, I could had not really thought about how others might have felt about us leaving. We made our goodbyes, and I finally arrived inside the school. As I did, I felt Lisa and anxiety spike. Ignoring the pain in my legs, I picked up my space into the commons and nearly ran into her. She don't see me, though. Neither did the people standing with her, Oron and the little doll girl. I stopped and listened to her, just catching the end of the conversation. The girl leaned towards Lisa, who seems more stunned than anything else. It looks to me like it came from a gargage scale. I thought a precious Dragmoroi could have standards. Scorn dripped off the word Dragmoroi. Grabbing Doll Girl by the shoulder, I jerked her away. She was light. She stumbled 3 feet and nearly fell. She does have standards, I said, which is why you are done talking to her.